in political sphere. I would like to thank President Trump for our joint work, for the well-wishing and trustworthy tone of our conversation. It's important that both sides are result-oriented, and we see that the President of the U.S. has a very clear idea of what he would like to achieve. He sincerely cares about the prosperity of his nation. Still, he understands that Russia has its own national interests. I expect that today's agreement will be the starting point, not only for the solution of the Ukrainian issue, but also will help us bring back business-like and pragmatic relations between Russia and the U.S. And in the end, I would like to add one more thing. I'd like to remind you that in 2022, during the last contact with the previous administration, I tried to convince my previous American colleague that the situation should not be
после наступления, которые могут наступить тяжелые последствия в виде
боевых действий. Прямо сказал тогда, что это большая ошибка. И вот сегодня мы слышим, когда президент Трамп говорит, что если бы я был президентом, то войны бы не было. Я думаю, что так бы на самом деле случилось. Я подтверждаю это, потому что в целом у нас с президентом Трампом наладился очень хороший деловой и доверительный контакт. У меня есть все основания полагать, что, двигаясь по этому пути, мы можем дойти и до, и чем быстрее, тем лучше, до завершения конфликта в Украине. Благодарю вас за внимание.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. That was very profound, and I will say that I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Radcliffe, thank you very much. But we have some of our really great leaders. They've been doing a phenomenal job. We also have some tremendous Russian business representatives here, and I think, you know, everybody wants to deal with us. We've become the hottest country anywhere in the world in a very short period of time, and we look forward to that. We look forward to dealing. We're going to try and get this over with. We really made some great progress today. I've always had a fantastic relationship with President Putin, with Vladimir. We had many tough meetings, good meetings. We were interfered with by the Russia hoax. That made it a little bit tougher to deal with, but he understood it. I think he's probably seen things like that during the course of his career. He's seen it all, but we had to put up with the Russia hoax. He knew it was a hoax, and I knew it was a hoax, but what was done was very criminal. But it made it harder for us to deal as a country in terms of the business and all of the things that we'd like to have dealt with. But we'll have a good chance when this is over. So just to put it very quickly, I'm going to start making a few phone calls and tell them what happened. But we had an extremely productive meeting, and many points were agreed to. There are just a very few.
All right, welcome back to the Salem News Channel. Again, I'm your guest host, Carl Jackson, sitting in for Larry Elder. Trump said that they had a productive meeting, the meeting between he and Vladimir Putin. He said that he would have to speak to our NATO allies, of course, also speak to President Zelensky. And again, he said there isn't a deal until there is a deal. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. You guys heard Russian President Vladimir Putin say that Russia has its own national interest. All right. Overall, he believed that he and Trump basically made good business-like partners, if you will, or they handled things business-like. And so this is going to be very interesting, guys. I agree with President Trump. There is no deal until there is a deal. I think Vladimir Putin, if he's allowed to, will try to string us along. That isn't going to happen with President Trump. President Trump is in a fool. One of the things that President Trump is great at, honestly, one of his best attributes is his foreign policy experience. I mean, the guy does a great job with foreign policies, not necessarily getting us into long, drawn-out wars, but using the power of our economy, using the leverage of the American power, if you will, in order to get nation states to get along with each other. I mean, that's very admirable. But this is a wait-and-see thing. Again, President Trump said there is no deal until there's a deal. So he's going to take back whatever whatever he and Putin talked about. Again, he's going to go to Zelensky. He's going to go to NATO. And then they will discuss it. They'll get things figured out. Obviously, Secretary of State Marco Rubio being there. You have the special envoy Steve Witkoff being there, which suggests to me that President Trump meant business. Obviously, he meant business going there. Vladimir Putin coming to Alaska. You would think that Vladimir Putin coming to Alaska, another territory that used to be part of Russia until I believe nearly the mid 1800s or so. Vast resources in the state of Alaska. So it's kind of ironic that Putin comes to Alaska. Apparently, there's some parts of Russia that you can see that are just 50 miles away or so from borders of Alaska. So pretty phenomenal. I don't think he had to travel that far. So, again, he extended the invitation for President Trump to go to Moscow next time around. President Trump, listen, President Trump is willing to take a meeting just about anywhere and virtually with anyone if that means bringing about peace. And so let's hope that this comes to fruition, peace between Russia and Ukraine. But again, there is no deal until there's a deal. So we will wait. We will keep you informed. Stay tuned to the Salem News Channel. We will make sure that we keep you up to breast of what the latest news is regarding the Trump-Putin meeting and what happens going forward in the future. But here's what we do know. President Trump was emphatically clear that if Vladimir Putin does not agree to a ceasefire, there are going to be severe sanctions. And frankly, guys, the Russians are starting to feel the pain when it comes to this war. Not only are they losing a lot of soldiers, obviously Ukraine is losing a lot of soldiers as well, and they've been getting a lot of aid, including from us. But Russia is starting to feel the pain as well. Not that they didn't, but let's be honest, this is a very long, drawn-out war, and we can only hope that it comes to an end. The question is, will Putin be satisfied? Will Zelensky be satisfied? Ultimately, the decision will have to be up to those two nation states. Otherwise, what they're going to continue to do is continue to shoot and kill each other, sadly. So let's hope and pray that this is not for naught. And quite frankly, I'm not convinced that it is for naught, no matter which way that it goes, because we do know, just as President Trump said, that if Vladimir Putin doesn't cut it out, there's going to be some sanctions. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Zelensky, like I'm sure many of you aren't, but I believe he is at least more amiable than a former KGB agent. I think it's as simple as that. But we have Trump, and I will take him any given day in negotiations over Vladimir Putin.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.